My name is Shafali Jeste. I'm a child neurologist at UCLA. My title is that I'm an associate professor in psychiatry and neurology at UCLA, and I work in primarily an academic and research environment with some clinical practice as well. I've been attracted to neurology since I can remember because I've always been really fascinated in the brain. And as a young child and then as a student, I was fascinated by the things that happened in development to help children grow into being adults. And I was really particularly fascinated by the fact that children were so different from each other. And I knew with regards to their personalities and the way they behaved in the world, and I knew that had to be rooted in the brain somehow. So I knew I wanted to study the brain from an early age. That basically led me to wanting to be a neurologist, because in neurology, what do? We are constantly uncovering all the mysteries of the brain. My specialty is child neurology, and specifically, I'm a specialist in neurodevelopmental disorders and autism. When I started seeing children during my neurology training, I started seeing many children who had developmental delays, and specifically autism, which is diagnosed by having difficulties in social interaction and communication. And I was fascinated by the fact that these children struggled so much with basic social skills that we often, who don't have autism, take for granted. And when I started really investigating this further, I realized that we really didn't know why this happened. Why do children develop autism? And how early can we diagnose it so that we can actually target treatments that help? So my field actually is in research, and what I research is the biological or neurobiological basis of autism. My lab, which is at UCLA, focuses on studying specific brain-based markers, and which we call biomarkers, that can help us understand why certain children develop autism and why certain children don't. And specifically, how do we measure those things even before symptoms start so that we can target treatments as early as possible in development? So I still see patients in clinic as well, and the patients inspire the research, because every patient I see, the parents have the same questions. They ask, why does my child have autism? How do we prevent symptoms from developing? And do you have a treatment for my child? And I believe that the research that I do in my lab, and that I work with many experts around the country to do research like this, our goal is to really get to a place where we can answer those questions for parents. At some level chose my career path, but I would say my career chose me as well. And I think that is based on the fact that it's the patients that inspired me. So again, during my clinical training, I was so intrigued and mesmerized by these kids with developmental disabilities. And I knew that I had to focus my career on figuring out ways to better understand predictors of and treatments for these conditions. So these kids really compelled me to do this work. I have been given really good advice from mentors over the years, and some of it I've taken, some of it I haven't. But I would say that the advice that I've received consistently from mentors is stay focused, eyes on the prize, meaning stay focused on what your passion is, what you really want to do. Don't get distracted by opportunities that may arise that really may take you down a path that isn't your ultimate passion. I would say that I've contributed to neurology in two main ways. One is that I feel as though I have been a very compassionate and empathetic clinician who really cares for children with autism and their families. And I think that I actually do that by being so invested and involved with research, which is sort of the second part of the answer. My research, which again is still in its very early stages, it's really focused on figuring out what works for these children. And to do that, we have to better understand, again, the biological basis for why they have these disabilities. And so I think that I have worked really hard in my career, in my early career, to try to build programs that will help us answer the questions that ultimately will change our clinical practice for children with autism and neurodevelopmental disorders.